Robots Radio presents...
Today's chat is brought to you by the support of all our Twitch subscribers. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through the Twitch platform, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the website and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a subscriber of the FFC and gaining access to some exclusive features over in the Discord server, please be sure to visit our Twitch account and click on the subscribe button. If you're an Amazon Prime member, remember that you do have a free subscription to Twitch every month that can be used for this. And for those of you who are already subscribers, thank you again for your generosity.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat. Explore together.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on July 19th, 2020 over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat as we continue our discussion over the Vault of Glass. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the advanced session of the week's exploration. Congratulations to those who signed up for a deeper dive. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the corgi face desk spamming green-eyed music lover. If you've never had an incentive to come into our chat
She's so excited.
for live chat, you should do that now. Because whenever we're streaming, we have new emotes. And, oh, Blue, what was the name of the artist? I can't remember her name.
Yes, Cassie Nova Art and Design. Amazing artist. Yeah.
She just did 4 new emotes for us, and one of them is a face desking corgi. Like, it is a corgi that is halfway laying off of this desk, is just face planted in there with a little sweat thing. And the most amazing aspect of this is that Blue has the stream set up where the background stays static, and then there's an overlay, but in between those two layers, you can actually make an explosion of emotes of whatever you put on there. So this emote just went live tonight while we're recording, and there are corgis flying all over the place that are just face desking, and it's like 4th of July, but for puppies who are disgruntled.
Oh. Yep, there
It is
it goes
amazing.
again.
There they go. It is a great, great thing.
Oh my gosh.
But,
It's amazing.
but Blue, we're doing an advanced episode and not playing with corgis.
I'm going to try really hard not to. Man. But yeah, no, so we just real quick, obviously you probably picked up on it. We're recording this one a couple days after the intro session because I had to go help my sister-in-law move in. They've just purchased a house, so I had to help them for the past couple days move in and get stuff all situated because they also have a small child, and small children make moving very difficult. So that is the explanation as to the delay of the recording, which anyone who's listening to the podcast probably not gonna, you won't notice a difference. But yeah, so enough with that. Let's just jump right in. I think the plan for this one is really we're gonna talk about the new information, because there's been a significant amount of new information since Vault of Glass, but how that information kind of breaks or makes new theories about what exactly happens within the vault. And then we're also going to look at some of the thoughts of what we could possibly see in the reintroduction of the vault, thoughts on what we can see, and then hopes for specific events or even changes of the vault. Because since we have already gone through vault and we kind of broke it the first time through, it's going to obviously be slightly different this next time through, or at least I hope it'll be a slightly different, because it would be a really good opportunity to see some new twist on old faces, I guess it would be the best way to say that. Let's see. So, new information. Green, where would we want to start on the new information?
Well, how about the fact that one of the characters that we know is tied to Vault of Glass, we kind of hinted at this a little bit in the introduction, is not dead, just trapped. And that would be, it's Pahanin, right? Not Praedyth?
No, Praedyth is trapped.
Praedyth?
Pahanin is, as far as we know. We actually had this I think we had this conversation in chat the other night. Pahanin is deceased, as far as we know. and it is very strongly implied that Dredgen Yor is the one who killed him. It is not confirmed, I will specify that, but there is a number of implications that Yor was the one who kind of put Pahanin down.
Him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in the book Aspect, back from Shadowkeep, we actually got some more information about Praedyth and how Praedyth is not gone, as we never got really a conclusive evidence that he was dead, but he's also not exactly among us. He's trying to find his way out. And Mirativ is I believe, the first card that we get with him in it. That is in this book, unless it's not Deontic. But
yeah,
Deontic talks about it.
Yeah, I think it's Deontic.
And yeah, with his introduction to the Ishtar Collective team that had also gone into the Vex network prior to the collapse, which is interesting that
correction. It is Mirativ. You were
prior.
You were corrective. You were correct. It's
okay.
Mirativ.
Okay, so Mirativ happens first, then you get Deontic and Jusiv and Irialis and Epistemic.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all entries that we've gotten recently regarding Praedyth, and I believe they're all part of the Aspect book. Like I said, the Ishtar Collective team has some of their reflections, if we're going to call them that, from their original experiment, have made their way to Praedyth and has worked with him, yet at the same time annoyed the snot out of him. I think is the easiest way to put it. Oh my goodness. I kind of just want to read these few cards.
Because I think
at least one of them.
Irialis is the one that, that's the ending where all of them finally, the culmination of the annoying alliance, I guess you would call it, kind of comes together. Right.
The thing that's nice about the alliance coming together is you get kind of this hint that they're stepping through somewhere, some win, and coming back through the Vex network into our reality, and we don't know exactly when or where they're coming through. The interesting thing is that hints to me personally that they're stepping through the Vex network, but maybe not into our reality, but it may be tethered to our reality, or it may not be tethered to our reality. What did you take that as, Jay?
I would agree with that. Like, I think I was actually kind of expecting, I was expecting / hoping that at the end of the Garden of Salvation, we would have him stepping out of that gate before we destroyed it, which I think would have been fun. And either that or have Kabr step out of the gate, like have one of the two of them kind of come out.
Right.
Obviously that didn't happen, but it did, it is opening up the possibility that Praedyth is coming back, which will be really interesting with all the other craziness that's going on right now. If Praedyth comes back, I'm not sure where he'll be, where he'll fit in.
Well, I mean, that's where we're here tonight, don't you think? Who better to help us beat Vogue than to have a new character who's been there?
Yeah, I mean
we have
especially
Eris for all the Hive stuff.
Right. I mean, Osiris does do Vex, but for the Vault specifically, Praedyth or Pahanin or Kabr, and we know that Kabr is not going to be... Kabr is not... we have confirmation that Kabr is no longer Kabr. So if we see Kabr again, because of the imbibing of the Vex, of the radiolarian fluid, Kabr is basically gone the same way Asher has, but he actually is worse off. So like Asher, we have within the lore, Asher's infection is growing from his arm into actually him. And Asher is very concerned about this, but Kabr actually drank the Vex. Like, he actually fully ingested them completely. And so he
wanted to go on that zoom ride.
Yeah, his infection, if you will, is significantly more. And he even calls that out in the end of the entry, because he says, if I speak again, I won't be Kabr. It was the sacrifice of his that allowed us to actually bypass and defeat Atheon. So, I mean, it was a dare say, necessary sacrifice, but it was still, it was still a sacrifice. And in, I think it's, pull that back up real quick. In Irialis, you see at the very end, it says, somewhere Kabr is always dooming himself. So,
right.
There is to borrow a phrase from Doctor Who, there is a fixed point in which that is a necessary component. And it makes sense. Like, even if we don't look at time travel, if we're just looking at multiple realities, it still would mean that in every reality, that's like a linchpin point that in order for the reality to continue, it has to happen this way. Like, the events... It
has to cross over.
Yeah, the events that lead up to it might be different, but that specific event is going to happen no matter what. It's a for lack of better words,
it's the button in the quilt.
Yeah, it's a predetermined event that has to happen.
Makes sense. So with Praedyth being a possible return, we don't know when or if he's ever actually going to return to this reality. Do we think that we're also going to see the original Ishtar team? Because those were reflections, so they shouldn't necessarily come through, would they?
Well, they're not necessarily reflections. They were fragments
copies
from the Vex network. And it did sound like in Irialis that it says somewhere they are always stepping through. Mm-hmm. So, I mean...
This could be my moment. You realize this. This could be, like, the big moment.
For Chioma and Maya?
No. For Dr. Shin to come walking through the gate
I know you.
And look like Osiris.
And do the Spider-Man.
Hey, the Spider-Man.
Hey, you! Oh, my gosh.
That would be amazing.
I would be so happy if that happens.
If that happens, I would drop everything. Message Beard. Say we did it and retire on the spot. I would be like, I've peaked. I called this back in Osiris, Curse of Osiris. I'm done. You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Now, it would just be really cool to see Shem and Dwayne. I kind of want to just smack Dwayne as soon as he walks through the gate, or just push him back through the gate. Like, just go away. But, oh my gosh, just all the stories of him just being a complete and utter goof. But it would be neat to see the original team and see if they have any information that we...
Even if it's just for a moment before, like, they, if they, like, fade away or whatever, because they are just, digital echoes. I guess that's the question. Are they actually just digital echoes? Like, at what point...
Right.
Since we are existing in a multiverse. See, I go back and forth because some of them would definitely, because the Vex simulated them, or at least we are pretty sure the Vex simulated them. So they would be simulations in themselves, but that doesn't mean that they, I don't know, like that.
Well, they also made the split, right? Like they had the original copies, the original amount of copies that are out there. And there was a series of experiments where you have the instance where they say that, hey, they're simulating us having this very conversation right now.
The ghost fragment
that
effects.
Was an experiment that was witnessed where they saw that, but I don't know if that necessarily meant that the copies themselves were another layer of this cake.
Right. Well,
and
so what I mean is, like, because, like, if you go back to the ghost fragment Vex story, they have a scene at the very end where I think it's fragment 4. There's a scene where they are loading those 227 copies of themselves into the Vex network. And the way that it read was like, it kind of felt like they were watching them walk to there. And it's like, wait, hang on. If they're and so that made me think, oh, these are actually like they actually exist. I would also really like, and let's talk about just for a second, like what would be really cool is like if Praedyth comes back, he comes back in like a team of like the 5 of them, and then as they step through, the 4 kind of like dissipate.
But
like they're still there, like you see them for a flash. I think that would be a really cool homage to them. They don't even have to. I don't think they would even have to say anything. Just have them there.
That would be cool. It'd be essentially an almost fire team walking out.
Right.
Like a raid team. So the thing that I would find interesting, and Dredge and Parable asked a really good question in chat, is it necessary, though, for these characters to come back? Considering this game is now becoming our Guardian story, wouldn't it be better for the characters to stay gone? I think that the large grouping, it would make sense to do more of what Blue was saying with the fact that they dissipate, possibly, as being a worthwhile thing, because it's paying an homage to a set of characters that were such a huge pivotal point in our story originally back in D1 when we log into the Ishtar Collective, that it would tie back to Venus, it would tie back to Ishtar Collective, and it would tie back to the Golden Age again with these researchers discovering all these different things about the Vex and the anomalies that are happening. Beyond that, if we have no guide into the Vault of Glass, we really don't have a reason to go there. There's no character right now that's tied to it that's in game that I can think of, because Osiris is the closest one.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
than
some sort of guide. We have no Toland for it. That would make no sense.
Well, my only thought... Oh, my gosh.
If Toland was involved?
No. But, like, if you have a simulation guide through the Vault of Glass like Toland, but it's one of the team...
That would be cool.
That would be really cool. I don't expect that to happen because that would be a lot of work, but that would be really cool, is have, like, a simulation lead you through the vault. That would be really cool.
They have the ghost assets. It wouldn't be hard to throw those guys in there.
That's what I was thinking, is like just have the ghost. I mean, even if you just had the ghost aspects kind of floating around the vault, but as the team, I think that would be kind of cool. I don't know how you could spin that. But I was going to say, I don't think it would be necessary, but to counterpoint that, I mean, the game has always been our Guardian story.
Sure.
And I think that
there was a lot more emphasis on developing other characters' backgrounds, right? Like we had that at the beginning of D2.
Yeah. I think that's where I while it's not necessary, I think that in D2 it has gained traction, that we see a lot of this development, because I feel like I haven't said this in a long time, but like D1 was really world building, like the whole thing, and they didn't really populate it. D2 is like, okay, we have this whole thing built. Sure. Let's start adding flavor. Let's add flesh to the skeleton
context
that we have. And that's why I think D2, for as much as sometimes the mechanics have annoyed me, I've stuck with it, because from a storytelling perspective, this is the part that I absolutely love. It's like the peppering in of like various characters and their nuanced, idiosyncrasies and stuff like that. It makes it really interesting. Sure. And I really, like, short of Praedyth coming back, the only other person who I would really see being a really good hook is Kabr. And that's for a completely
but if Kabir's dead...
but if Kabir is dead...
Right.
Because Kabr...
I mean, it would be cool if Kabr came back and was just like, hey...
if he's the big bad...
let me walk you through everything. Why would he be the big bad?
Because he is
of the
Vex.
Consumption of the Vex milk?
Mm-hmm. Yep. He is not...
Then Asher's a big bad. I mean...
Well, Asher...
Is Asher going to be our guide for that, then?
I would say Asher is in the process of potentially becoming a big bad, because he's becoming infected. And that's the tragedy of Asher's story, right? Is that he knows what's happening to him, and he can't stop it. Like, that's my thing with him. So, like, seeing Kabr in the same way that Praedyth could be like, okay, here, let's show you the way, Kabr could be like, come get me. Like, because he said he isn't Kabr anymore. He could be, he's basically the dark side of what was going on with Saint 14. Saint 14 was neutralized by the Vex with the martyr mind and everything, but they were never
not
corrupted.
Assimilated.
Yeah. But they never, but they've always been trying to understand the light. Kabr could be
simulate the light.
Mm-hmm. Kabr could be a linchpin to that whole thing.
Yeah, but if Kabir's being transformed into a Vex, was transformed into a Vex like Asher was, and supposedly Captain from Failsafe, what?
I forgot about Captain.
Why? Oh, Captain. That one. I mean, it would be a really cool story hook in a totally different direction than I think that they've led breadcrumbs towards, but I really want to actually take a commercial break and go into this a bit more.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So let's do that. So, see you on the other side.
Hey there, my name's Jameson, or Big Cat.
And I am Brenna, or Mother Goose.
And together, we are the hosts of the DL, Weekly Gaming News.
Each week, we bring you the top stories from last week, as well as something you might have missed.
Our goal is to start a conversation about what's going on in the world of gaming.
And every week, we have a special guest join us in the chat room, where we discuss a different gaming-related topic and learn more about our guests in the 60-second download.
And if that isn't enough, we also have Slim Jims.
So come and hang out with us every week and join in on the conversation.
Good luck and have fun, everybody.
And remember, keep your goose loose.
And we're back. And we're going to talk about how my head hurts a little bit with the idea of possibly Kabr being a big baddie for the updated VOG, Vault of Glass. If Kabr loses himself completely to the Vex and is completely transformed into the Vex, but still retains, do you think he would retain a sense of light? Also, what happens to his ghost? Like, there's so many questions of why and how they would have to go through to make this work.
Well, I mean, so the first answer is what happens to his ghost. I mean, to be fair, it wouldn't be the first time that a ghost charge is lost and the ghost moves on. We've seen that. Mm-hmm. Now, the difference is here, like, I think that the ghost could either be dead or it could just, there's plenty of examples of where that ghost could be. The ghost could be one of the 9 ghosts that Orin contacted, for all we know, because there was 1 or 2 ghosts there that mentioned that they lost their charge. If we're talking possibilities there. As far as
right, but that would mean that the Vex would have to not only key into his particular frequency like they did with Saint, they would also have to figure out a way to take over the ghost.
Well, if they
or drain it.
Yeah, if they assimilated him with his light, but because of the way, like, so the difference between him and Saint 14 here is that the Vex set out with the goal of understanding Saint 14 and actually neutralizing his light. Kabr, on the other hand, actively kind of imbibed the Trojan horse and actually committed suicide in a weird way.
Sure.
And he did it, he did it to create the Aegis, but the way that he offed himself, for lack of a less crude way, is I could see him coming back in the same way that we had the Siva-fied Iron Lords. Like, they're not guardians. They are just the shells of what they were, but they are still moving. Like, I can see that being like something. In my head, it would just be a really cool nod to that entire thing to have Kabr be the new Templar. Like, because that was his big thing, was he formed the Aegis to take out the Templar and ultimately to take out Atheon. And also because when I say the word Templar, I think of a big knight, and Kabr is kind of that big Titan figure. I would really think that would be a really cool, like, parallel.
It would be.
No backup information on that at all.
The problem, though, would be if the ghost is the key to having us utilize light, then if Kabr came back and was assimilated fully, he would not technically have the ability, as far as we know, to be able to utilize light. Correct. So he would just be another Atheon. So it would
I don't think he'd be another Atheon. I think, if anything, he'd be, because Atheon is specific function within, and I would hold that Atheon is, I hate to say this, but Atheon is eternal. Like, he is, as long as the Vex have the vault to use, Atheon is really
as their anchor.
Atheon is really, like, the way my headcanon, the way I've always understood it is, like, the Vault of Glass is like a subway station. All the different realities
Sure.
are trains that come through the subway station. And Atheon is the master conductor that is making sure that all the he's not the conductors on the trains. He's actually the I can't remember what they're called.
He's the hub.
Yeah, he is the master of the hub. He is the one that is making sure that all the trains come and go as they're scheduled. So as long as that hub exists, there will be an Atheon. It might not necessarily be the Atheon that we've experienced because we destroyed that Atheon, but there will be an Atheon.
The problem is that also gets into the same problem with the Vexgate that we did back in Season of Undying, the Undying Mind.
Mm-hmm.
That has a similar connotation because the Undying Mind is in multiple realities.
Correct.
And we literally tried to hunt him through all of them. If there's an infinite amount of realities, technically there's still an infinite amount of Undying Minds that we haven't touched yet.
Which is
because
actually my argument to that whole scenario. I don't think
Right.
I as soon as they started doing there's in all the realities, that's where we're hunting them. I'm like, this is a never ending quest.
Well, actually, I think there is a loophole for it. You ready? Vance talks about, in one of the newer cards, how we are tethering different realities to our own. If that is the case, that means that there is a finite amount of realities that the Undying Mind is tethered to our own, which means theoretically there could be realities of the Undying Mind that is not connected to our own because we haven't pulled them through. Or we haven't connected them together via the Tesseract.
Right. But I mean, what I'm saying is, like, in a multiverse theoretical existence, you're going to have, depending on how different realities are brought into existence, usually it's the theories is based around like string theory and stuff like that, and quantum. I think it's quantum tunneling, I believe, is when that comes in. But usually the conclusion is that you have an infinite number of realities or parallel universes or whatever. So whether or not they're tethered, like, the thing is like there will always be a reality in which, you know, the Undying Mind, Atheon, whatever exists. And so if you have a device that can at will connect to another reality, then you're always going to have that threat. Like, that's the thing is, like, with the Sundial or with the Vault of Glass, because it is a conflux of all those realities, or even because it is able to be a conflux, they can reach out and grab another strand and plug it in. Which is what they did with the Undying Mind. They scoured the realities and brought it back.
Correct. And the problem, like, obviously, if there is an infinite amount, though, that gets into that numbers problem again, right?
Yeah, because eventually you're going to overload.
If you're not
things.
correct, if you're not reaching out to grab another strand, though, there is a finite amount of strands.
Yes, that in and of itself is kind of like the paradoxical nature of the multiverse. If you are allowing for the blending of them, there is going to be the damage. There has to be a limitation, because, like, you can't have, I can't remember what law of physics it is, but you literally can't have something exist in the same space as another thing. Like, there is a point at which things cannot coexist in and of themselves. And so if you start blending realities together and stacking them, there is going to be a point at which that crunch is just going to get too much. And either the thing that you're crunching together is going to implode, or it's just literally it's going to be too dense and it's just going to start bouncing things off. Like, it's just, there is a limit to the compression rate of, as far as we know in physics, there is a limit to the compression rate. Like, there is a point at which you can't combine things, which is why, you know, talking about the, like, Ahamkara and all of them, that is also where the dangers start coming there, is because every time you make a wish with an Ahamkara, it's pushing another thing into our reality. Now, that all being said, you can also see, and I think we kind of talked about this, but you could also argue that is exactly the reason why, you know, the Winnower and the Weaver are at odds, is because it's like, okay, you are getting to a point where this compression is getting too much, and so now we have to we have to
Winnower and Gardner.
we have to like pull them off. Oh, thanks, Pence. The Pauli exclusion principle, I think, is what it is. I'm going to look that up real
Interesting.
quick.
Yeah. So.
Oh, that's the two things cannot exist in the same space at once.
I see. The Atheon and Vogue itself, because Vogue is such a conflux that is so much more connected than even the Sundial.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because the Vex made it and not us. Take that in a little bit. How much power did the Sundial have with Osiris making it?
Well, and if we remember too, the Sundial was created by Osiris duct taping things that even the Drifter was nervous about together. Mm-hmm. And it was also designed for one specific thing, to rescue Saint 14. Whereas Vault of Glass is the Vex literally. So like when we talk about confluxes, that's another term for like confluence. And a confluence is basically the best way to kind of think about it is if you have two rivers and same size rivers, but then they blend together. That's a junction point at which these two rivers come in together and they form into one. So it's the process of merging them, which is where it's getting interesting because the Vault of Glass is literally the merging point of all these different timelines and realities. I would stress it's going to realities because I'm still not convinced that we're actually doing time travel. But that's another conversation probably. But like all these realities are being blended and merged and woven into our own at this point, or into a singular one. Now, the other thing that we know about the Vex is that they research other realities to find the reality in which they are going to win, and then they secure that reality, and you can see how they secure that reality and then converge all the other realities around that one to make that reality real, to make that the only reality. Now, when you talk about that, that's why Vault of Glass is this massive computer. Like this, it's just this massive thing. It is infinitely more powerful than the Sundial because the Sundial is doing a similar concept, but on a much, 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 much smaller scale. Because whereas like the Vault of Glass is like looking at all the strands of these different tapestries and merging them into a single one. I kind of take the Sundial as looking at, okay, this strand right here, this single strand that's purple. Where is this one? Mm-hmm. That's the one that we want.
So here's a funny thought. The Sundial is a computer that's never been defragmented. The Vault of Glass has defragmentation built into it with the Gorgons.
Yeah, I can...
It's an imperfect analogy.
No. I'm thinking, I'm like, yeah, but I would also argue that the Sundial, like going through that example, like I would argue that the Sundial probably, as it's designed, would never need to be defragmented because it's like a Raspberry Pi computer, right? It's like it's designed. It's a very little thing that's designed to do one specific task. Now you can chain it to other things that can daisy chain them, but whereas the Vault of Glass is like your PC.
But
So
if we're going through like the switchboard idea, right? Mm-hmm, like the idea that the Sundial is a switchboard connecting all these different realities to our own. The fact that in the Vault of Glass, a Gorgon can just pull out a plug and it's just no longer there anymore. I mean, that to me seems like it's a way more efficient version of the Sundial turned up to like 12 and 13.
Yes.
You are literally unplugging something from existence.
Right. And I would also
gets back in.
No, go for it. Sorry.
I was just going to say, which gets us back to the idea of Vex and paracausality.
Yeah, I would say like my thing that I was going to say is like the other thing to keep in mind with the Gorgons and with the Oracles are that when they scratch you out, it's not just in the vault. It's out of everything.
Right, everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Whereas with the Sundial, when we defeated things in the Sundial, they just ended. Like they didn't cease to exist in reality. They just that thread was cut at that point. Whereas with the Gorgons, it feels like that thread is like literally either pulled or burned out of existence.
But that has to do with the computing power, don't you think? Because the Sundial itself is a limited linear
I see.
time
I gotcha.
moving forward, whereas the Vault of Glass can go forward and back.
Yeah.
Because you can go as far back into the past as you need to, as well as far into the future. So you just get yanked out. Funny thing is, though, even though it's like, Kabr wasn't erased, but the other 3 fire team members, because you had Praedyth, Pahanin, and Kabr, then there's supposedly 3 others that totally got yanked from existence at all. Mm-hmm. How is it those 3 still made it?
They were really good at dodging Gorgons. Actually, I don't think they even got to the Gorgons, if I remember correctly.
I don't think they got to the Gorgons.
To the Templars. So they must have run away before the Oracles popped out, which would make sense.
And then you had 3 foolhardy. Do we know what classes those guys are?
No.
Praedyth, Kabr, and...
Praedyth, Kabr. Pahanin was a hunter, Praedyth was a warlock, and Kabr was a titan. It was literally one of each.
Okay. Man. Okay. Do you have any ideas of things that you think that you had talked about the idea of Kabr possibly being a raid boss. I would even
don't like. And I hear like you.
Even a mini boss?
Yeah, I would think, like I said, what I would really like to see is Kabr as like the new Templar. Like the hat, like one of the war priest, or something like not the big bad. I still think that if we're gonna do if we're gonna get Vault Glass 2.0, I am 90% sure that the big bad at the end is still gonna be Atheon. Like I don't see another final fight in the Vault of Glass, because that's just that Atheon is the vault like. He is part of the vault.
It exists because of him.
Yeah.
Right.
It exists because he is controlling the pieces, and he exists because the vault exists. Like that's like it's an inseparable thing. So like I don't think I'd be actually kind of surprised if Atheon wasn't included as at least part of the final fight. The Templar, however, is where I can be like, I think would be really cool, is to see like a nod to this story of Kabr, because Kabr, and the only reason this makes sense in my head is because it would be a cool like parallel, because Kabr, in a tragic way, Kabr killed himself to defeat the Templar. And so he becomes that which he, except it's not going to be, it's like, it wouldn't be Kabr. It would just be his frame, if you will.
Do you think that they obviously have to change the raid up a little bit? It can't be exactly cut and paste from D1. People would riot. Although, some people would probably love that too.
I would not be among the ones rioting, because I absolutely love the vault. But I agree. I think it's going to be a little bit different, yeah.
But story-wise, it's got to do something different.
I think that from a story perspective, it would make perfect sense that it would be different, because we have already infiltrated it once. So
couple times.
Yeah, even from like a basic security standpoint, you would change the path. Like, if it can be broken into, close that door and,
Right. If you think about all the different times we've broken in there, we went in with the original Vault of Glass team with Kabr, Pahanin, and Praedyth, plus the other 3 that we don't know. Then our team goes in there, our Guardians team. Then we go in again when Oryx tries to get in there, right? There was that mission where we get the no time to explain.
I think I think that was like the first time we saw Taken in there. I can't remember if that was. I want to say that was before we defeated Oryx.
I'm curious. Well, it was some of the echoes and stuff in there, wasn't it? Like, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I know. I think it was like the Taken War. I think it might have been. I think it might have been during the Taken War, which would have been after Oryx, because it was. I honestly can't remember. The big one that I remember is obviously the first run through, the Praedyth mission, and then the Skolos.
Yeah,
Skolos
getting in there.
Stole the Vex tech to run through realities. But I don't think, if I remember right, Skolos never actually made it into the vault. Like, we never actually, I don't think we ever went in. We went above it, I think. Because we had to climb.
We were in a different section of
Okay. I know that we were using tech.
It was a different part of Venus. Let's take a quick commercial break, and then we'll jump back into this with some more predictions on how many parts and things that we think is going to happen with the raid.
A Ahoy there, ye landlubbers! Avast! My name is Captain Logan, and I'll be your guide out on the Sea of Thieves. If you love the idea of stealing treasure, cutting down cursed skeletons, fighting off krakens, and raiding forts filled to the brim with shinies, then Sea of Thieves is the game for you. Join me each week as I dive into the news and bring back the nuggets of information that any sailor worth their weight in salt would desire. You don't have to be a pirate legend to gain access to my podcast. Just search for Keelhauled, a Sea of Thieves podcast in your podcast app of choice, or head over to robotsradio.net or captainlogan.podbeam.com and get ready to set sail for adventure. Arr.
And we're back, and honestly, Blue, I think that we're going to get a different way to get into the vault. I don't think we're still going to do sync plates. I think they're going to change that a little bit.
Oh, Wicked, correct me. We did go into the vault with Skolas. We got to the Templar area.
Okay.
That's right. Because he tapped into the oracles.
Which is also scary.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
Like the vault being controlled by Fallen, Orcs. Also, the fact that we went in there for the Exo Stranger stuff, too, and Praedyth stuff. Like, the Vex is not a very secure place, if you really get down to it. But I think we're going to get totally different entry into the vault. I don't think we're going to go in through sync plates through the front door like we did before. I would be very surprised if the pathway is the exact same. Although, I'm sure there are assets that they reuse. Mm-hmm. But they've got to... I don't know.
I mean, like, I could see us still ending up at the Templar as well.
Sure.
I can see us... And then, like, honestly, after the Templar as well, like, I can see the path being somewhat the same. Like, the Harpies patrol might be... the Gorgons patrols might have changed. But, like, that labyrinth, I could see mostly being pretty similar. Because, I mean, really, honestly, after the Templar as well, it was a pretty short jaunt to Atheon. Like, you drop down...
Right.
You dodge Gorgons, and then you do the Superman jump across the path, across the way.
Right. I think, honestly, one of the things I find interesting is the tie into where we're at currently. Because right now, we've talked about ideas that it's going to be a completely new set of characters bringing us in there as far as, like, NPCs. Mm-hmm. But why go back to Venus in the first place? Wicked mentioned something in chat that makes me wonder, because we have the upcoming Zavathun expansion. What if Courier goes in there and the raid is now more Taken rather than Vex? Or maybe we're helping the Vex. Or, I mean, that does not seem like a good idea in any way, shape, or form, but preventing Zavathun from taking Atheon. Because what happens if she did that? She always does everything obliquely. She's never going to approach you directly.
I could see Coria going in. So here's another on that vein, like talking about like rescuing our enemy. So this is the thing that I was talking about in chat too. So you mentioned we don't know what happened with Kabir's ghost, right? Sorry, I'm on a Kabir kick tonight.
Yeah, it's fine.
Which, I mean, I don't get an excuse to be on a Kabir kick for, what, 5 years now? What if Kabir's ghost is still around? And what if one of the parts of the raid is us saving Kabir with the Aegis to allow his ghost to retake him?
To take him back from the Vex?
To take him back, to rescue Kabir from the Vex, using the Aegis that is imbued with his light.
Timeout in question. Does Asher still have his ghost?
Asher still does have his ghost. However, his ghost was also slightly infected with Vex, which is why Asher does not know if his ghost can resurrect him, because he doesn't. Which is why Asher is petrified of flying a jump ship.
Right.
Because he has not died since his accident, and he has no intent on testing what he is afraid is an inability of his ghost. Who is a female. I don't believe we actually recognize. I don't think we've gotten her name just yet, but he has done some slight experiments with her permission. He's not the drifter, but he's very afraid that she will not be able to resurrect him if he were to die, which is why he makes everyone come to him, which is going to be the tragic thing with the whole getting
pyramid.
Getting everyone off the planets, because Asher is going to have to face a number of his fears in doing that. I'm really curious to see how that gets played out.
We're just gonna dive bomb in there with a cabal ship.
We're gonna have to like medicate Asher, knock him out.
Oh my gosh, Prozac! Could you imagine? Oh my gosh, he'd still talk a million miles an hour.
Dancing has a counter thing. He's like, he's gonna talking about Kabr. He's like, the Vex will weaponize Kabr, but guess what? We're getting dark powers, so we might be able to. I kind of have this like itching in my head that Kabr or Praedyth is going to play a part. I just don't see how they couldn't. This is such a perfect opportunity for them to be brought back. And we've already seen them bring back characters like Saint 14, Osiris, these big name characters have been reintroduced. And even if it's not on screen, I don't even care if it's not on screen, but like having them being brought back into the fold of the story, I think is just such an, Praedyth, we've already seen it. Praedyth has been beautifully written to the point where all it will take is us opening up a gate and pop, there he is, Yeah,
what if that's
true,
the reason we go into the vault? What if we get some sort of communication with Kabr?
Oh my gosh.
Because he's been trying to radio out, and we go into the vault to rescue him. And at the end, after we boop Atheon off the side of the map,
no, they
like
put
we used to
up.
for good old time's sake. I know, but like, wicked dream. We just have somebody shoulder charge him.
Yeah, the one that was really noticeable on was Templar. Just shoot
the bumpers.
Shoot, go over there. Ah!
Yeah.
Oh my.
I never actually got to witness that. I really wish, though.
It was so funny. Like, it actually
one of
was
the
more
animation
work to
things.
do that. It was more work to get him to fall off than it was worth. Like,
oh sure, but like the animation thing, I wish that Bungie would have done, and I wish they would do it with like any of the assets. And I know would be an absolute nightmare to program in, but have every time something comes to an edge, it falls just straight down. I want something to come to the edge, and I want it to just teeter off and then fall off.
Or do the
and just tumble.
Wile E. Coyote. Huh?
Just like those spinning the legs. You wouldn't see it on the Templar. You wouldn't see it.
Oh.
That would be fun. I'm curious, though, what else are they talking about? Everybody's got some really good theories in chat tonight, and it's hard to keep up.
Well, and I know a lot of people, like, when we start talking about bringing characters back, there's such a slew of characters that would be so cool to see come back into main focus, right? And I mean, that's the double-edged sword of a well-written narrative, is that, that's like, it reminds me a lot of, Wheel of Time, because there's such a large cast. It was like, no matter what characters were being focused on, there was always one character that you're like, but what is he doing, or what is she doing right now?
Sure.
Only
Here's
if they
a
hold up
question
the
for
sign
you.
before they fall. Real quick on that. That was one of the best part. I think it was the first Festival of the Lost. In order to masterwork one of the Atheon mask, you had to fall off the tower. You had to jump off the tower. I think there was a triumph or something that was attached to it, and it was like nice. I just tip of the hat to
best
that. Was
revenge.
Just the best thing ever. Sorry, but yes, continue.
No, I was just thinking through just the Vault of Glass, Kabr, our involvement, the involvement of Ghost going through it. Here's a theory for you, and this is going back to the idea of the possibility of Dr. Shem and all the rest of them, the Ishtar team coming through, which wouldn't that be a cool little tip of the hat to our Ishtar team coming, just having the Ishtar team come through. But would the fact that they're civilians, mortal, affect their ability to exist within our own reality? Or would it have a Dorian and Gray effect?
So,
or would it, because they re-enter our stream at that point?
So that's an interesting.
It just is the start of their new story.
So that's actually that's an interesting argument too, because like when you that's one of the paradoxes with time travel in general. Especially when you have things like bootstrap paradox or what they're usually called as ontological paradoxes, because they're with it like a bootstrap paradox, it's a cycle. Like bootstrap paradox is basically when something from the future gets sent to the past that then inspires it to be created, or is it being created, and it starts creating this loop in which there is no discernible difference between when it was created and when it wasn't. Like it's a constant. The problem is that you have things like the law of entropy, which means that basically eventually that thing that keeps getting sent in a circle is going to break down and fall apart. So, but then you also have, hang on, I think it's the, that's when you have like the timeline protection hypothesis, that we kind of mentioned in the intro session. That is basically a hypothesis that states that any attempt to create a paradox will fail due to a probability distortion being created, which in short means, namely, the universe will favor an improbable event happening in order to prevent an impossible one. So because that bootstrap paradox exists, it's impossible for it to not exist. And so it will, like, improbable events will happen around that item
to force it to be at that spot.
Exist. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Now, the law of entropy is where you also get this thing called Theseus's paradox. Theseus's paradox is this idea where in Greek mythology, Theseus was a hero, and his ship was then docked at, I can't remember the port, but it's been docked at a port for centuries. Well, over time, it's a ship. Things fall into disrepair. So what they would do is they would repair it piece by piece. And the paradox at this point in time is there is an actual ship there still that is referred to as Theseus' ship. But the point is like, well, but is it Theseus' ship? Because it has been repaired so piecemeal over time that arguably there is not a single piece of that ship left that is the original ship. But
but if you're going to take that argument, that's the same thing with our human body, just naturally.
Right.
Every 3 months, we're completely regenerated.
Right,
so
and that's the argument against the law of entropy with time travel is if you have like a pocket watch or something like that, and it gets sent back at a time, and this particular event gets sent back and all this, as pieces fall apart, it can get repaired, and the pocket watch itself is never gone. But the question is, Imperfect Paradox is similar to this in Destiny. It's like that shotgun, that is the actual shotgun. But pieces of it get repaired. So is it the actual?
Well, that's you get the variants, right? That's correct. How you can get shot package on the shotgun.
No,
is
that's
the fact
because
that
we cheat
and
tie realities to our own.
Right. Because you're basically patchworking your own gun together. It's not the original. It is the original, but it's also a modified original.
I see where you're going. Yeah. So like, and that's where you get into like the argument of like, multiverses eliminate the need for time travel because different realities will have different. I mean, they'll have different laws of physics entirely. They have different time. Time is relative. There's even an argument I know that the law of entropy and the law of causality are. What is it? They are not. They're not referred to as absolute laws. They're statistical laws. So the law of entropy you could actually experience if time travel was a variable within that particular equation. Entropy could be reversed in the same capacity that the time stream is being reversed. So like you could have things in the future come back and have unaged enough time so that when they pass in reality, they are at the same, it's basically resetting the clock on that type of thing.
Wouldn't that be fun? Start the whole thing over again.
Well, and the problem,
finish Vault of Glass, and finish it, and you had the opening screen, and it's the D1 screen.
My gosh. So the other fun thing with Bootstrap Paradox is that it requires predetermination. Because there's, for a large majority of it, there is no room for wiggle room because it's a fixed timeline. Like it's a fixed thing.
I'm curious though, we haven't talked about one character all that much that could be very, very much so related to Bog and has been in the past. What if the Exo Stranger is the one sending us in there?
Yeah, I can see, with everything that's going on, honestly, if they're going to bring Vogue back in Beyond Light, that would be my expectation. I would see her being, which then also ties into Praedyth's story, because she was one of the ones who saw, or he saw her. I don't remember if she saw him.
Don't know. But that would be an easy way to bring him in. And she's will be currently on Europa by the time we hit November.
Correct.
But she was also the first time that we had physical interaction with her was on Venus as well. And do we think that
the
Venus,
first time we had interaction with her
is
was on the moon, technically.
Physical and besides just seeing her, actually talking with her.
Yes.
We saw her on Venus at the Ishtar Collective.
Which that's part of the thing. If we get to go back to Venus, I really hope that they open back up patrol areas like that. Oh my gosh, I would love to be able to go back there.
I miss some of those areas. I miss the area that you were talking about earlier when Skolos takes over and you have to climb and you get to the top. That was a cool little
skybox.
Yeah. When we capture Skolos as well, that was that same pathway is when you first capture Skolos up there. But yeah, there's a lot of things. Is there any other fond memories of either Venus or Ishtar or Vogue?
No, I mean
that?
Just Venus in general. That was definitely just a favorite patrol area of mine, and that was I loved the skybox that Venus had. It was just alien enough, but just familiar enough as well. You could see I don't know, it was just so cool, the combination of alien flora and then just but then things would make sense, they would have pools of water, but it would be iridescent water and stuff like that. It was just, or acid or stuff like that. Yeah.
Because do you think we'll get Spirit Bloom back?
Oh my gosh. Well, we have to have an element, right? Everyone loved their Spirit Bloom.
It could be something different though, because we get Dusklight shards on the EDZ, even though that's still, I mean, we could theoretically get Spin Foil back, or not Spin Foil. Is it Spin Foil?
Spin
Metal. Spin Metal.
Yeah, Spin Metal was, we still have
the Cosmodrome.
Yeah, Cosmodrome. I was about to say, we still have, because we have Dusklight with EDZ.
And then Venus, we would have Spirit Bloom. We're getting rid of most likely the stuff from Mars, Mercury,
Alkaline
yeah,
dust.
Seraphite's gone. Alkaline dust.
Data lettuce. It's not.
Yeah.
It's
data lettuce is Nessus. That's Nessus.
Yeah, isn't Nessus? Oh no.
Nessus isn't going away. It's Mercury, Titan, Mars. It's everything on the left side of the map.
Yeah. What's the
Io
crystal fronds, whatever they're called.
Phase glass.
Yeah, and then the spheres.
The seeds.
Yes.
I love how it's just we're doing all the physical things so we can help each other out, but nobody in the podcast is going to be able to see this. Blue just basically did the David Bowie thing with his hands to if he had a ball in his hands.
Yeah, it got the message across to everyone who's not just listening. Simulation seeds. Thank you.
Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I think there's a lot to look forward to with this. Lots of speculation. I'm hoping that we get more breadcrumbs as the summer goes along, as we get closer, which makes me wonder, because of them pushing the release back, that kind of breaks the tidy narrative storyline that they have going each week. So we're going to have a few, because if they have a few...
Oh, you mean for...
A new mission every week with interference, right?
Yeah, with interference.
Every week we're getting closer. Exodus, the Exodus thing, they could theoretically release that at a later date.
I mean, or they,
Exodus thing.
Or they could, I can't remember exactly how many weeks, but you could just skip a week, here and there.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly, I wouldn't even really be upset about that. Right. Because I understand. I don't know. I'm not even upset with the delay.
Oh, I'm not either. I'm actually finally getting like my Wayfarer stuff done and finishing off the Triumphs in all those places, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it. I'm not sad that they're delaying it because I'd rather them release it and it actually behaves the way that they're intending for it to behave rather than being buggy, which is kind of how the game feels right now, unfortunately. I don't know.
Yeah.
Blue, you ready for some shout-outs?
Yeah.
Shout-outs to our new emotes and to, if you... God, what you said the name at the beginning,
Cassie
and
Nova.
now I forgot her
Cassie
name
Nova
again.
Arts.
Cassie Nova. Yeah, go check her stuff out. She does really, really cute stuff. Our emotes in chat are now Blue laughing with his head thrown back, like the guys from Men in Tights. There's also me doing oh my god with a facepalm. There's a corgi head desk, which is the most adorable thing ever.
Which is Green's favorite.
It is my favorite. And then the final one is it's a kind of a fun thing that is shenanigans for Blue and I, but it's also another tie-in to Mr. Penn's Halo. It is a You're Welcome emote where Shax has luxurious black hair.
He's Maui-fied.
And is like Maui-fied. A little bit of Disneyfying happening where he's singing You're Welcome. So thank you, Cassie Nova, for making those emotes for us, and a huge shout out to you, and hope that your commissions fill up very soon. Beyond that, I don't have any other shout outs. Blue?
That's mine as well. Cassie Nova was a absolute pleasure to work with. I would highly recommend checking her out. I put the link to her Twitter in our chat here in the live stream. I will also link it on to the show notes for anyone who is curious about that. Yeah, and you know, it's awesome getting a chance to work with people from the Destiny community for different stuff, and that was definitely the case with that one.
We had a phone call earlier.
Yes, we also have some other stuff in the works.
Mm-hmm. With another Destiny community artist who's helping us.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that as well. And then also, speaking of which, the Guardians Mental Health is putting together a coloring book. Did you see this? I thought that was amazing. I haven't seen where you can get a copy of it just yet, but I believe it's a project that they're putting together, and it looks absolutely amazing. Definitely encourage, if you're interested in that, definitely encourage. If you're not, you should still follow them because they are an amazing resource to have, as well as just a down to earth, amazing group of guys and gals. But yeah, they're putting together a coloring book, and oh yes, Green, thank you. We have T-shirts now that are available for the Lore Network. So if you would like to show your allegiance to Team Lore, we have that linked over on the Lore Network website. I will put a link in live chat here for those who are with us tonight. And then I will also make sure to include a link in the show notes as well. But if you also are interested in supporting any of the content creators who are members of the Lore Network, I have all their merchandise links. I have all those listed on the Lore Network site, so please be sure to check those out. Yeah, that's all I have for tonight. So again, thank you for your time, and until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer, stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring.
Bye.
With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusedFireChat. Links to all our episode archives can be found at www.thelorenetwork.com. Please be sure to email us at focusedfirechat@gmail.com with any comments and or questions for the team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. So until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.